You're listening to Big World Network.
Accidental Passion, Episode 2, Control. Read by Meagan Hedin. Warning: although there is no material subject matter within that couldn't be found in any general bookstore with no age constraint, this series is rated 18 and contains adult situations and content. It is intended for mature audiences only and should not be read if you are uncomfortable with graphic sexual intimacy. It wasn't the gentle morning breeze coming through the open windows, but rather the smell of the salt air that woke him up. It was so unusual, so special, and so amazing that the scent made it to her consciousness before anything else. She opened her eyes, having to squint with the bright morning sunlight reflecting off the ocean and streaming into the condo bedroom. The light pounding of the surf stimulated her senses even more than they already were with the salt air and bright sunlight. It was a perfect morning. Last night had been amazing with Rick, so much that she didn't feel any more guilt for her actions. It was too amazing to have been wrong, and she felt she deserved it, even felt angry that she had been cheated out of such feelings and passion for so many years from Kevin. As she lay in bed lazily pondering this, she was pulled away from her thoughts by the sound of the toilet flushing in the ensuite bathroom. Rick came out, entirely nude, and walked over to her side of the bed as she smiled brightly up at him. Bending down, he kissed her lightly. "Good morning," she said, trying to sound as sexy as possible. Last night was truly amazing. Her hand reached out to touch him intimately while he was still bent over her, his lips inches from hers. He was immediately becoming aroused as she gave him a gentle squeeze, so she playfully pulled him down onto the bed. Within moments he was inside her, starting out initially as equally playful and tender. It didn't take Kim long to notice something was different. Last night had been so intimate and special, controlled, passionate. But this morning, right now, was... She struggled to put a title to it. Rough. That was it, rough. As she looked up at Rick, he wasn't looking at her, but had a distant, almost angry expression in his eyes. It wasn't that she minded the more forceful thrusting, but there was something about his look and the constantly increasing force that scared her. It was as if she wasn't even there. He was so detached, so angry. As she watched the sweat building up on his brows, she secretly hoped he would finish soon, her morning no longer perfect. It was a crisp fall morning in Detroit with damp red and yellow leaves scattered on the road. Not that Kevin Collins noticed as he angrily pulled into the outside lane to pass another idiot. He shot a glance at the driver as his Porsche, a car he dearly loved, easily pulled ahead. Kim hated the car, always complaining that it was a useless waste of money since he couldn't even fit the two boys in with him. But that was the idea, he thought, as he pulled into the parking lot of the medical office complex. He didn't buy the car for hauling the family around, and that was precisely why he loved the car so much. Let her drive the SUV and play suburban mom and continue the boring lifestyle she loved, a lifestyle that he was growing to despise more and more. He spotted Alicia's car and parked beside it, smiling, knowing she would have things set up and ready in the procedures room. The outside entrance to the door of the reception room was still locked, so he used his key to open it, locking it up again behind him. It would be another 30 minutes before the receptionist and staff would arrive to open the dental office for the day. Running his fingers through his curly brown hair, Kevin silently walked through the waiting room, not bothering to turn any lights on yet. He only had two things on his mind: taking the usual morning steps to make the day of whiny patients tolerable, and seeing Alicia. He wondered which of his two vices he was addicted to more as he entered one of the exam rooms and saw Alicia bent over the tank in her way too tight scrubs that only a 24-year-old with an incredible body could get away with. But then the two vices always came as a pair. "Are we ready?" he asked from behind her, standing in the exam room doorway. "Not until we have our shots," Alicia responded, pointing to two filled syringes laying on a stainless steel procedure tray. The shots were actually B12, used to counteract the side effects of nitrous oxide and prevent any permanent damage to the nervous system from prolonged use. Kevin picked up one of the syringes and an alcohol wipe, then turned Alicia so her back was towards him. She was much shorter than his 6-foot stature and nearly half his weight, even though he was fit. He reached around her belly with both hands in a sort of hug and untied her scrub bottoms. Holding them up so they wouldn't drop to the floor, he slid one hand down into her panties. He pinched her left cheek enough to expose her flesh before inserting the needle expertly and dispatching all of the liquid. When he finished, she gave him his shot, although not with the same sort of eroticism, but in a more clinical fashion, which did not go unnoticed by Kevin. Then he opened the valve to the gas tank and lifted up the plastic mask Alicia had attached for them. "You first today," he said, smiling, handing her the mask. He knew she would become a different person shortly. Alicia took the mask and put it to her face, maintaining eye contact for Kevin the entire time while she inhaled deeply, in what had become a 4 or 5 times a day ritual for the two of them. He watched as her eyes glazed over and fluttered slightly, and knew she was feeling the euphoria. After he inhaled his share for the morning, he sat down on a stool next to the procedure chair and pulled Alicia to his lap. They sat like this without saying a word, her hand gently, absently sliding back and forth on his thigh as they enjoyed the sensations and their escape. He had hoped she would do more than run her finger up and down his thigh, but this was nice. Kevin was also very aware that her affection extended only to when they were high. She had never even kissed him, and never shown any affection or attraction at other times. But the euphoric high brought on the sexual desires in both of them. Only a few days ago, despite the fact that they had never even kissed, after her time with the mask she had dropped to her knees and undone his slacks. The experience had been incredible, so much pleasure, so much euphoria. She often allowed him to touch her too, but it never went out of the exam room. He desperately wanted to slide inside her, but there was never an opportunity during the day when they would cautiously only have a few minutes to hit the tank without being discovered by one of the other staff. This was only a shared pleasure between them, and nothing more. But in the morning, with their first hit of the day, he actually now had a tank at home which Alicia didn't know about, and no one else around. They would enhance the pleasure with physical contact. This morning Kevin wanted to try and entice her to the procedure chair. He placed his hand on her knee and drew it up to her hip, the fingers of his large hand sliding up her inner pant leg as she sat on his lap. The thin fabric of the scrubs turned him on, knowing that was all that separated his fingers from her flesh. But before his hand could move any higher, she grabbed his wrist. "I think I heard someone unlocking the lobby," she said, standing up. Kevin sighed, and so began another day.
This has been a presentation of Big World Network. Visit us on BigWorldNetwork.com for more free weekly series, or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Big World Network.